Hey playa, whenever you're texting your crush, how often does that conversation just flatline? They stop responding out of nowhere. You don't really know what to say to keep things going, so you just kind of stay on silent mode trying to figure it out. Don't worry. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different techniques you could start using to bring life back into your conversations with your crush so that you don't have to sit there and stare at that screen anymore thinking, what do I say to them? I've covered texting your crush in a ton of different videos in the past, but some points really need to be driven home over and over in order for you to really figure out why they're so important. The most common reason why someone stops responding to you by text is because they've lost interest. The conversation is no longer fun and enjoyable for them, so they have no reason to really keep it going. And there are definitely outlier cases like they were busy at the time and they just didn't really have a chance to respond, or they're not really someone who uses their phone that often, so they don't really respond to messages that quickly. Whatever their reason is, if the conversation was going and now it's stopped, they've lost interest. And you want to get that interest back, so here's what you can do. It's a great practice to ask them questions so you can learn more about them, but the piece that a lot of people skimp out on is leading in with the story. This means sharing more about yourself and your life and why that question is relevant to you. Sending a text message like, hey, what's your favorite movie is good, but it can actually be better if you infuse a little bit of your own personal story into it. Instead of just asking what their favorite movie is, you might want to say something like, I just finished watching this movie or this show on Netflix and I'm looking for something good to now watch. What's your favorite movie? Adding that story at the beginning of the message makes it that much more personal. Now you're not just someone asking a question, you're invested in their answer, and that's going to make them want to respond a whole lot more. When someone shows a genuine interest in something that you want to share, of course you're going to be more invested in that conversation because they're taking the time to be raw and vulnerable with you, and they're hoping that you can do the same. That's how real bonds form, when people kind of lift up the veil, no games, no playing, and are just real with each other. Another good way to work in a story when that conversation has died, you've been left on read, they just stopped responding, it's been days since you last talked, whatever the situation is, start off by saying, oh my God, you won't believe what just happened, and leave it there. If you got a text message like that, wouldn't you be just a little bit curious about what actually happened? Even if they respond with just a question mark, they're engaged and ready to listen, and that's the place you want them to be. And what I don't recommend is making something up or lying to them. Look, your life is interesting enough. Even if you don't feel it is that way, reflect on your day, reflect on what's been going on, reflect on your hopes and your dreams, the crazy stories, the fun things you've done with your friends, anything you're experiencing, work that into the conversation and let that be your follow-up. Another thing you can do is to use what I call the reminder technique. This involves you sending them a picture, a story, a quote, something you come across online, and after you send it, sending them another follow-up message saying, wow, I just came across this and it reminded me of you. This technique is super clever because it does two things. First off, it shows them that you were thinking about them. You were on their mind when you came across this thing, and it feels good to know that people are thinking about us. Second, it opens up the doorway for a conversation about that comparison. When you make an assertion about someone and say that something reminds you of them, most of the time they're going to respond either agreeing or disagreeing with you. If they agree, great. Now you guys can talk about that thing, where you came across it, and why it reminded you of them. If they disagree though, that's still good because now you can explain your reasoning behind it, and if they just vehemently disagree with you, ask them more questions, learn more about them so you can really go under the hood to see who they are. For example, when I was reading the book Looking for Alaska, one of the main characters in the story, Alaska, totally reminded me of one of my friends. Everything about her, the way that John Green described her, the way that the characters spoke and talked and interacted with the other characters just screamed my friend to me. I didn't talk to this girl for years, so the thought of just sending her a random message with a question just felt awkward, but I had an opportunity here. I took a picture of the book cover, sent it on over to her, and said, you remind me so much of the main character, Alaska, which of course prompted conversation and curiosity on her part. The two of us caught up and boom, I started that conversation over. The main thing to remember here is that if you were able to get that person involved in a deep conversation with you in the past, there's a likelihood and a chance that it can happen again in the future. Now look, they might have gotten bored and moved on, and that's something you'll discover as you try these techniques out, but these techniques might actually give you a second revival that you didn't think was possible. Use them the next time you think about talking to your crush, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you said to them initially, and if they do respond and you start that conversation, how things went. Also, check out the videos over there on the side where I'm going to talk more about reviving dead text conversations. It's possible, you can do it, I believe in you. On that note, I'll catch you next time. As always, love and peace.